Hey, everybody, I'm Chris Cuomo. I hope you're excited about what I'm going to be trying tonight and how I'm trying it. Now, every day, you may recognize that I tell you how long the commercial breaks are, right? But you're not going to hear that tonight because we're trying something different. We're going to try a single sponsor model. Now, it's not easy to get that kind of commitment, but what we're doing here is being recognized as having value to a divided country. So tonight, we have just two 90-second breaks. That's a fraction of the usual number and duration of commercial breaks on the show. And we need the time because we have two big guests, both of whom are going to take your calls. I'm excited about this, and I want to thank our sponsor. I want to thank Chase for partnering with us. You know what they say, right? Chase, make more of what's yours. That's exactly what Chase is doing for us tonight, allowing us to make more of the showtime we have to have a very important conversation. First, we have legendary talk show host, Dr. Phil McGraw. He's here because he's got a new passion of purpose. What is causing division in America and what he and the rest of us can do about it. He's got a new book out, We've Got Issues, and he makes a really solid diagnosis on what's tearing us apart. He looks at specific problems like fentanyl, the border, our politics, what President Biden's age, what former President Trump's antics mean to our concerns and our sense of collective cause. Wait until you hear his case for what's causing the division in America, who is behind it. Fortunately, Dr. Phil sees a cure. And plus, he's going to take your calls, 844-968-7720. That's how you get in, but we're going to have to talk first. And then we have Bill O'Reilly here to assess something we never talk about. What happens if Trump wins? What does Bill O'Reilly expect to get better and how? More importantly, why does he, does he discount the threats and the designs that come directly from Trump that absolutely smack of despotism, especially now that he's begging anyone he can, including you, for money? Why does he discount what so many see as an all too real danger? And as once in a while happens, O'Reilly's going to take your calls also. 844-968-7720. So let's just quickly set the table for Dr. Phil. We know there's a sickness. We know there's a sickness in our country. We see the symptoms all over. The chaos at the border, an equally frightening reluctance to fix it among our leaders. They spend more time attacking Biden than our problems on the right. They picked up exactly where the Democrats left off, exactly what they said was wrong to be doing. And now we have Trump begging the country to pay his debts. We have people afraid of what's going to happen on social media, afraid to discuss anything for fear of being called a bigot or worse. We are dealing with someone whose big call to why you should vote for him is that he will be an agent of your revenge when he wins. Increasingly, it seems for so many of you that you can't recognize your country or certainly identify the crazy that's driving it. Who better to assess our illness than a doctor, and not just any? Dr. Phil, one of the most trusted psychologists in the country, who's now about to launch his own cable TV network called Merit Street Media. Why? The move is driven by a profound need that he sees, outlined in a new book called We've Got Issues, How We Can Stand Strong for America's Soul and Sanity. The book is a quick but very, very important read. I went right through it because so much of it speaks to me about what I cover all the time. The only difference is Dr. Phil looks at it through the lens of what is moving hearts and minds and what can be done with it to get us to a better place. Dr. Phil, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. Appreciate you spending a chunk with us tonight.
Chris, it's good to talk to you, as always, and I appreciate what you've had to say so far.
Thank you. So, Dr. Phil, people should get the book, obviously. There's a lot of analysis in here where you use what's happening, you frame it for people, and then you give them, at the end of the book, there is a great 10-step plan for what you can do to deal with the division. What is your diagnosis of what is causing what we all see around us as most manifested in our politics, the division?
Well, Chris, I think the health of any society is really based on how strong family is in a society. And I think family in America is under attack. Some of it is, frankly, a byproduct, unintended consequences of technology that has changed the way we live our lives. I think we saw a huge shift, a quantum shift around 08 and 09 when smartphones came out and our kids stopped living their lives and started watching people live their lives, watching virtual lives being lived. And we saw a spike at that point in terms of mental illness with our young people, depression, anxiety, loneliness, highest levels since records had been kept. And it's been getting worse since then. COVID made it worse. It didn't start it, but it made it worse. And we all know that it's not good for them to spend so much time on social media, but people don't understand it's not just the time they're spending there and what they're not doing instead, but they're actually being targeted. They're actually being specifically fed toxic information because it makes them upset, and when they're upset, they click more intensely, longer, more fiercely than they do if they're not. And if you want to break down a society, get their children confused, get the next generation where they're not prepared to live with life. And I think that's to deal with life. And I think that's one of the things that's contributing to the problems we're having now. I think there are people that are trying to hijack the narrative in America. And what I'm talking about is, well, the question that you're asking is who is they? And I think the they depends on the subject matter. We have people that are trying to waylay history, pretend our history didn't happen. Let's go into the schools and rewrite the history books for kids. Let's go in and rewrite some of the classics that the kids are reading and take out things that we think maybe they shouldn't see. But let me tell you something. You can't change history. I'm not left. I'm not right. What I am is fact-based. I deal with science. I deal with facts. I deal with reality. And I deal with real people that come to me with real challenges looking for real solutions. And to do that, you have to deal with science. You have to deal with history. You have to deal with facts. And I think if people are trying to change that narrative and replace it with something that's more convenient for them, whether they're trying to rewrite biology, rewrite science, rewrite history, that's just not healthy. You just can't make things up because you want them to be different. And that's something that is really disrupting a lot of people's feelings of safety and security and trying to change what's happening, what has happened to make this a great country that people aspire towards. And let me be very specific here. In our colleges right now, we see professors that are teaching that the goal should be equality of outcome in this country. The fact that I've entitled this new network Merit Street Media is not by accident. This country was founded on and built on a meritocracy where talent, hard work, added value is rewarded. But now the idea is, no, let's not do that. We need to all work towards equality of outcome without consideration for quality of input. That has never worked. It's not going to work, and we need to get back to recognizing that when people work hard, they should be rewarded. When they don't, they shouldn't. You can't have somebody sitting home in a beanbag eating Cheetos all day and they get the same outcome as somebody that's out really working hard and making every effort they can to contribute to society. They don't get the same outcome. They shouldn't get the same outcome.
So, Doc, what are we supposed to do with the inclination to make things better? I don't hear a lot of people saying that you got to have equal outcomes. It's really about equal opportunity that people speak to. As my father used to say, may he rest in peace, was the best guarantee that America can give you is a chance to succeed or fail on your own merits. Well,
you're listening to different people than I'm listening to.
Well, maybe. And maybe that's why conversation matters so much, right, Doc? And one of the reasons I value time with you is we have a bad imbalance in our country in many ways. One of them is something that I actually picked up from an earlier work of yours, the difference between perception and perspective. We are obsessed with what is coming out of our own heads and what we are being made to feel we believe, and we are doing less and less of listening to anyone and anything outside of that. And it's a really dangerous conversation that I believe in a they also. And I believe that the party players and the powerful and the established corridors of leadership in this country love that we're not talking to each other. Love that it's easier to keep us divided by being afraid and talking about different groups instead of to and with those groups. Do you see this in our society as manifested in our politics? And is there a they there?
Well, I think so. And I love to hear you saying this, because what I'm trying to do is get people having a conversation, first around the kitchen table, well, maybe first with themselves, giving themselves permission to speak up and be heard.
Without
then
these.
Around their kitchen table
Without
with each
these.
other. Exactly.
with these people,
down.
but
Turn
not with
off.
this phone.
Yeah, exactly. Put that thing down and actually make eye contact with someone around the table first. Then maybe you do it at church. Maybe you do it in the neighborhood, around the barbecue in the backyard. And then you take it wider. We need to start talking to each other. Just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean you have to hate them. And you can disagree, and then you can go to lunch. And people say, well, we're talking about life or death things here, Dr. Phil. I don't want to go have lunch with somebody that disagrees with life or death issues. Well, yeah, you do. Don't take yourself so seriously. You know, nobody made you the repository of all knowledge. Maybe you'll learn something. And, I try to get people to focus on solving problems rather than winning arguments. We got enough right fighters in this country. How about you quit trying to be right and start trying to solve problems? And that's, and I say that to myself as well. I'm trying to find a way to solve some problems. Famous Texan Sam Rayburn, former Speaker of the House, said, any jackass can kick down a barn, but it takes a carpenter to build one. And I'm trying to be a carpenter, and I'm trying to show people how to be carpenters. I hate people that just criticize but don't have a better solution, a
That's
better
the
choice.
currency, though.
And that's why
That's the currency,
exactly.
though,
And
Phil.
that's why
I mean, we
got
see it all the
issues.
time in our politics. The problem is enough. Best and most easily manifested in the border issue. It's existed forever because it works well for the parties in power. It gives them each something to deal with. It menaces everybody. My question that is provocative, but I want you to knock it down. You say the mainstream in this country. You say that we're about core values like live and let live, and that there is a way through to a better place. There is a lot of energy in this country to suggest, Dr. Phil, you are an optimist, but you are not a realist. There is no mainstream anymore. It's all division. It's all us and they, all the way down the line. Even Taylor Swift, you got to have an opinion on that goes through a political filter. There is no mainstream. There is no live and let live. It's you do it my way or there's something wrong with who you are and what you're about. It's too late. What do you make of that cynicism?
Well, it is just that. It's cynicism. And let me tell you what I recommend. If you've got somebody that you disagree with and you're trying to negotiate some kind of a middle ground, some kind of a place to start, and I've trained negotiation. I work with law enforcement. I work with negotiators. I work with all kinds of different entities, and I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement in this country. And one of the things that I always say, if you're going to negotiate, even with a hostage taker, first thing you need to do is sit down and say, okay, what can we agree on? We focus enough on what we don't agree on, but if people in America that are on different sides of an issue, I don't care what the issue is, if the first thing they could do is say, let's focus on what we agree on first. Let's make a list of those things. You're always surprised how much we actually agree on in this country, even if we're on different sides. For example, everybody wants this to be a better country for our children. Everybody wants the next generation to have a safe country. Everybody wants to have a prosperous country. Everybody wants to have a country that's green for our children. Everybody wants to have the ability to walk down the street and not get mugged or not get what's theirs taken away from them. Everybody wants to have equal opportunity. No, who would disagree with everybody having a fair shot at the American dream? We can all agree on certain things. What we disagree on is how we get there. But let's agree that we all want the same things, and then say, all right, now let's talk about methodology. And if we can agree on the goals, now we're just talking about a game plan. We're talking about, do we go this route or do we go this route? And once we understand, hey, you know, we all want some common goals, we all want some of the same things, then maybe we realize, you know what? They love their children just like I do. They love their brothers and sisters and moms and dads just like I do. They have pride in this country. I'm tired of people apologizing for America. The first thing they do is apologize for America being successful. The first thing they do is start finding some reason that we're guilty for everything in the world. We're not. I'm proud to be an American. I love this country. I stand up when the flag goes by. I put my hand over my heart when they play the national anthem. I love this country. That doesn't mean I don't recognize there are problems. I said there's a difference between equality of outcome and opportunity. We don't have equality of opportunity, but we should, and that's something we can work on. But we've got so much virtue signaling going on. Chris, right now, they decided that SATs are culturally biased, so they discarded them, right? Nobody uses them anymore. But the fact is, if you look at the science, the research says that is one of the ways that disadvantaged kids, particularly minorities in the inner city, can pole vault their way out of that. They may not have the GPA, they may not have the resources to have educational achievement, but the SAT will give some of those young people the opportunity to demonstrate the brain power, and they can get into some of the elite universities. I'm not saying they want to, given what we've seen in their conduct lately, but let's say they do. The SAT is a great tool to identify those kids that are particularly gifted. And I've had so many people in universities say, yeah, we know that research. We read the same research you do, Dr. Phil, but we're going to be judged if we start using that again because the mainstream people believe that it's culturally biased. We just don't want to take the heat. So they damn well know that it's good. They know that it helps those children.
It's not the mainstream
but they
people.
don't use it because they're virtue signaling.
It's not the mainstream people. It's this magnified minority that we have on each side of the political spectrum. You have motivated minorities, but they get magnified significance, which I want to ask you about why. How did we get to a place where, whether it's the fringe on the right or the fringe on the left, however you want to define it, that they have dominated the dialogue, they dominate the party system? How did we get here when the majority is now in a place where it's got to sit back and feel powerless?
Such a smart question, and I can tell you that the answer that I have is that the mainstream is not organized to move towards a known outcome. And what makes you effective in achieving a goal is if you're taking identified steps towards a known outcome. And that's what some of the organized groups are doing. And how they do it is they identify an enemy. And when they identify an enemy, then they have someone to focus on and they go after them. And that's what we call cancel culture. They identify somebody, they go after them. And let me assure you, I asked a group the other day, do you understand what we mean when we talk about bots on the web? They said, yeah, you mean automated accounts, right? And I said, yes. And when those are deployed, how many do you think we're talking about? They said, oh, I think sometimes there could be 1,000 of them. These bot farms have millions and millions of these accounts. And when they decide we want something to trend on X or one of the platforms, they can deploy literally millions of these accounts that they program automatically to deliver a certain message and go after a cause or an individual. And all of a sudden, it seems like the entire world has held a trial in the court of public opinion and convicted someone or decided on a cause. And when you get back behind it, it's a very small group of people that have identified the target and deployed computer-generated accounts and created a zeitgeist in society, and it really doesn't represent anybody's point of view.
And the media will use it as a proxy for insight. I can't tell you. Look, I mean,
Of course they do.
my history is no secret. I've been in this business a long time. I have been targeted that way, and sometimes I see it as a clever tactic. But when the media starts picking up on it and says, well, a lot of people online are worried about, and it's really co-opted our dialogue. So it takes us to this next understanding of who we are and what we're about. Everybody is posing things in our politics in the negative. Everything is about what you have to fear. Now, that's always been true to a degree, but not as much as now. And we're looking around for remedies. Congress is focused on TikTok because of its connection, which is not as impressive as our lawmakers make it seem, to Chinese interests. Do you believe that TikTok is a unique threat because of what it is and who owns it? Well, leave the ownership part out of it unless you care about that aspect. But is TikTok that different than the other platforms?
Well, I think the only difference is that we are putting information on that platform when you create an account. And so that information, I mean, think about it. I've been on the air 22 years, and through that period of time, I've had a lot of people contact me. They contact me by text messages or emails. So I have millions and millions of accounts, contact information. So if I want to message someone in some way, I have the ability to pull up a list of millions of people and send them a direct message. And I think if we have someone that doesn't have our best interests at heart, someone, a country, a government with whom our interests are not aligned, and they have the ability to message 50, 60, 70% of our population directly, and they can send them propaganda, they can send them information, and they have that information. And I'm not saying that they use that information to steal their bank accounts or whatever, but they have the ability to message them directly with propaganda. That can be a problem. And there are statistics out there that suggest a high percentage of young people, 18 to 24, get 100% of their news
from TikTok.
From TikTok.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Disproportionately young people. So it becomes, what are solutions? In the book, we've got issues. It's a lot about personal empowerment. And I think it's really interesting that you are entering this space, to be honest. I mean, you always have tangentially, but man, these are some dangerous waters that you've decided to spin in. And now you're creating a cable news outlet as kind of a manifestation of this new passion of purpose. And why are you doing this, Dr. Phil? You don't need to do this. Your legacy is solid. Why do something this ambitious, this risky right now?
Well, I've been asked that question a lot. They say, why aren't you gardening or something? I mean, you're at a point where you can do something else. You can do what you want to do. But, Chris, I am very passionate about this. And I look at what's happening in this country, and as I said, I love this country, and it matters to me. And I'm doing what I've always done. I'm responding to what my viewers are saying is important to them. When I first started, Dr. Phil, you remember Roger King.
Sure.
He was the king of syndication. And the first time he ever asked me, he said, all right, okay, Dr. Phil, we're going to take your show out and sell it. So what would you say to people about what it's about? And I said, well, I'm going to talk about things that matter to people who care. I'm going to deliver usable, commonsensical information to their homes every day for free. Things they can use. I want this to be television you can use. And so that's what I set out to do. And it's really no different now. It's just that the questions have changed. People weren't asking me about internet predators before. They weren't asking me about things before that were psychosocial in nature. They weren't asking me about the border before. They weren't asking me about what had them really has them really upset now. That has changed, and I've changed with them. When I started, the first text message had never been sent. 6 or 7 years later, I was having to deal with cyberbullying and online predators and internet scams, and I had to change with that. Now I'm having to change with this, and I'm glad to do it. I'm impassioned by it. And this book, We've Got Issues, is a book about unity. It's a book about closing that gap. When I say we've got to start working on solutions instead of arguments, that's what I mean. This is a book that I think is designed to help close that gap and bring people together. The number one principle I put out in there is be who you are on purpose.
Right.
Own it. Live with intention and own it. And get your voice and speak it. Don't be afraid of cancel culture. If we all stand up together, it's real hard to pick any one of us off. And that's the important thing. We got to stand up together. But this is a book of unity. This is a book for parents to use and getting their children off their phones and into life. It's a book about learning that we do control our lives and we do control the collective personality of our communities in this country. It's not about politics. I don't know a damn thing about politics, Chris. Don't want to.
Good. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and people are going to get to ask you their questions, Phil, and kind of fill out where they think you're going with the cable network and why the book, and I'm sure they're going to have a lot more for you. I want to thank our sponsor again. Thank you, Chase, for giving me the opportunity to have such a long conversation with Dr. Phil. It really magnifies the impact for people. Time matters. So this is one of the only 2 breaks I have in this show. It's 90 seconds. I'll be right back with Dr. Phil and your questions. All right, it's time for you to have your say with the one and only Dr. Phil. Dusty, who do you have?
You were going to say the one and only Dusty. Oh, well, it's Dr. Phil. I'll come second to him. Anyway, everyone keeps saying the same thing, our bosses, that this is flying by. It just shows what
good conversation does.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, okay, let's start with Paul from Fair Lawn, New Jersey.
What's your question for the doctor?
Hey, Dr. Phil, big fan. Wanted to ask you about the border. Do you feel that the border is open by design? For a couple of reasons. First of all, with the immigrants, we get the cheaper labor for one, and the second is our military enrollment is way down. Now, when these guys get into the military, it's a quicker passage to becoming a citizen. So why wouldn't they?
Well, thank you for your question. And I think the border is out of control, and I don't know if this is something that has a particular design or if it's something that's just gotten out of control. But I think about America as our home. And if you were going to have a guest in your home, you would want to know who was coming over. You would want to know who you were letting in your door. And I want to be very clear. I am very pro-immigration. 100% I'm pro-immigration. But I think it has to be controlled, and I think we need to know who's coming into our country. And we've got hundreds of people that are coming in that we know are coming from countries that don't have our best interest at heart. Maybe some of them are just escaping the oppressive government that is controlling their country. Maybe they're coming at the behest of that government. We don't know that, but we should know that. I think in the 10 years between 2010 and 2020, we had something like 1,100 people come in from the Republic of China. I think in 2023, we had something like 30,000.
Yeah. It's in the tens of thousands now.
During that time.
Tens of thousands of people are coming across.
It's tens of thousands.
Yeah, and you have the kids that Dr. Phil talks about. We have all these kids that are coming across. They're being trafficked. They're being abused. They're being abandoned. Sometimes it's innocent that a family is desperate to get a kid a better life, but all too often it's economic, that they're using these kids as currency. The problem is absolutely by design. And not fixing it is by design as well. And everybody knows we need more babies in this country. We need to grow our population. We need to expand our diversity. Everybody knows we need it. It's about how you make it happen. And it is chaos created as such. Next call.
Next call is from Dave from Tamaqua, Pennsylvania.
Dave, what's your question?
How you doing, guys? All right. President Biden saying inflation is down dramatically. Dramatically, he said. You believe President Biden should talk to the average person, ask how they are doing, because no way is inflation coming down or been down. Do you believe President Biden should go to a supermarket, look at the prices that have been way up and hasn't come down since the pandemic? Also, I believe that Dr. Phil, you should call him and tell him about us, and maybe you can also bring up the open border and what's happening because of it, destroying our country. It's terrible.
You think you could get the president on the new network?
Well, I don't know whether he would or not, but and Dave, I appreciate your comments, and I can tell you this: I'm about science, I'm about facts, and I've done a fair amount of research on this, and what I know is this: it costs someone over $11,000 more to buy what they bought less than 18 months ago today. It costs $11,000 more. And so you can run numbers and you can say that inflation is up or it's down, or you can find some numbers and spin them around. But at the end of that tab, there's a total down there, and it's 11,000 plus more to buy the same milk, the same bread, the same gas, the same energy that they were spending about 18 months ago. That's not good, because things weren't great 18 months ago. People were having a hard time getting by then, and now it's costing over $11,000 more. That's not good, and you can tell them it's good, you can celebrate it, you can put out a press release. Unless somebody's written stupid on my bald head, that math doesn't work, and I don't think it works for anybody else. And I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, that doesn't make good sense.
Unfortunately, everything's put through the lens of Republican and Democrat. You know, the moment that Biden took office, feelings about the economy literally went like this with the two parties. People switched their opinions like that. Everything is looked at the lens through whether or not your side is winning. Is this good for my side as opposed to the country? You got another question for Dr. Phil?
Oh, yeah. We have more than another. But we will go to Ron from Lynbrook, New York.
Ron, what's your question?
Phil. Hello, Chris. Thank you for taking my call. Dr. Phil, Oprah Winfrey has Craigslist to the drugs Ozempic, where she can insert a drug and they'll lose 20, 30 pounds, and the View's done the same thing. As a man of medicine, what's your personal conviction about this? Are we being taken again? Is this healthy? What are the side effects somewhere down the road, sir?
Well, look, I'm no physician, so I can't speak authoritatively about that. But what I'm curious about is why people write headlines and say, so-and-so admits that they're using this drug, or admits that they're using that drug. That drug, the word admit is usually associated with wrongdoing.
Yep.
My attitude is what somebody uses or doesn't use for their health is nobody's business but their own. If Oprah or Susie Q and their doctor decides that they want to do something and they're an adult, that's their business. It's not mine or yours or anybody else's. So, if this is an approved drug and an adult in consultation with their physician decides they want to do it, it's nobody's business. And to use the word admit, and you see these headlines, so-and-so admits they're taking it, I think, who decided it was their business? Hey, that, to me, is a psychological barrier that shouldn't be crossed.
Phil, I wanted to ask you something, because I know what you think about what you do, and you're a purposeful person by design, and you're doing that with the cable station. Chris Harrison is going to be part of the network's family. I think he's doing 2 shows. I think he's doing one with his wife, and then he's doing another show at night. What do you want people to know about why you chose Chris Harrison as part of the face of your network, one of the first moves?
Well, first off, I think he is a very talented and wonderful guy. I think he was unfairly treated in his history, and I think that he deserves to be on television. I think he's earned that. I think he's a talented guy, and I believe in second chances, and I think he deserves a second chance. And I don't think he should have had his first chance taken away from him, but I certainly think he deserves a second chance. And I think he has a lovely wife, and I think they're going to be a tremendous addition. I believe that it was my honor to invite Chris Harrison and his wife onto Merit Street Media, and the reception that we've gotten by bringing him back on to television and putting him on Merit Street Media has been unbelievably overwhelming.
Dr. Phil McGraw, I appreciate you spending time. I know you're going to have your own network, but you're always welcome here to have a conversation with the country about what's going on, how you see it, and what we need to do to get back together. Thank you for spending time with us tonight.
Well, we're going to own the debate lane on Merit Street Media. And remember, you promised me when we talked last time, you'll be a guest on my show and on Merit Street Media. So we'll be looking for you, Chris.
I'm an ask away, brother. I'm an ask away, and I'll be there.
All right.
All right. Take care. Dr. Phil, thank you very much.
Thank you for this honor tonight. I really appreciated it. Thank you.
I couldn't have thought a better guest to spend the time with. So this worked out perfectly. Thank you.
Well,
thank you very much.
And people listen to Bill O'Reilly. He is a wise historian, I can tell you for sure. I'm a fan.
Oh, boy, Dr. Phil. Boy, I don't know why you had to do that to me right now that I'm going through it. Dr. Phil, thank you very much. All right, Bill O'Reilly is up right now, post-endorsement from Dr. Phil, because he needed that. The Biden campaign, I want to talk to him about what happens if Trump wins. And certainly, the Biden campaign is trying to make people think about that. They're seizing on the former president's comments over the weekend that if he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath. Now, was he talking about the auto industry? Yeah. But was he suggesting something more? Yeah, because that's what he does. They played Trump's greatest hits, like when he sang the praises of white supremacists at Charlottesville, and they're playing with bloodbath because they're trying to paint the picture that if this man wins, bad things are to follow. Here's a taste.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. Jews will not replace us! But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of January 6th defendants.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be a bloodbath.
So, will this be effective? But more importantly, I want to get Bill O'Reilly's head, especially on a night tonight where we're lucky to have even more time than we usually do, about what he thinks a Trump presidency looks like. Bill, thank you very much for joining us tonight. You heard what Dr. Phil said, right?
I did. I had Dr. Phil on the No Spin News, and we kicked it around a little bit. Just a couple of asides. Thank you to Chase Spank. That's really important that corporate media like that sponsor programs where information flow is free, so people can learn if they'd like to. Secondly, Dr. Phil comes at it from a more sociological viewpoint than I do. I'm a journalist historian. But the attempt that you and Phil are making to try to bridge the gap and tamp down some of the hatred, get people to speak with one another is good. But it's not going to work the way you would like it to work. And I'll just give you two quick examples. The people who believe in reparations for slavery are never going to concede anything to the people who don't. The people who believe open borders, unregulated immigration, helps the country and is a humanitarian must, never are they going to have anything in common with those who don't believe that. However, most of the folks are persuadable, which is what I do. They're persuadable if you are fair and fact-based. If you're an ideologue, the days of the ideological stuff are over. You can see it. Radio, talk radio, cable television, except for NewsNation, which is on the ascent, is declining. People are tired of that. So I'm glad Phil is in the arena. I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. I'm happy that you're doing this program tonight. All right, Trump. So the Biden commercial was disgraceful and didn't surprise me. I don't think Biden even knows that commercial exists. They don't check with him, his campaign. They just do what they want. So obviously he was talking about the car manufacturers in China and Mexico, and that if this continues, the people of Michigan, this is where he was during his speech, are going to see blood in the streets economically. That's what it was about. On the Charlottesville thing, I researched this, and it's in my book, The United States of Trump. Trump was talking about the statues of Robert E. Lee and other Confederates being taken down, which was the origin of the Charlottesville demonstrations. He wasn't talking about the demonstrations or the Nazis or the crazy far-left people. He's talking about the people who wanted the statues down or didn't want them down. That's when he said there are good people on both sides. Anybody researching this would find that easily. But again, the ideologues don't care. They're in business to mislead and accumulate power.
It is a fair statement that the former president has said more and gone more out of his way to make threats about what he's going to do if he gets into power again. You don't have to make up suggestions. You have no concerns about Donald Trump's vindictiveness, who he'll go after, how he'll try to use power, even though he talks about it on a regular basis.
There is a check and balance in this government. It's built into the system, and you'll learn about it in my upcoming book, Confronting the Presidents. Donald Trump is running on grievance.
Yes.
His grievance and his MAGA followers' grievance. It's obvious. He did it the first time. He won with it, and he's trying it again. I believe he's soft on January 6th because all the people who were prosecuted were MAGA people. That's why I think he's soft there. But there are cases where the government overreached, and he should look at them, and if they need to be pardoned, pardon them.
You don't think he'll go after enemies? You don't think he'll do it differently this time and surround himself with people that do what he wants?
When you say go after,
yeah,
I'd have to see how that plays out. All right? That means you'd have to have the cooperation of an attorney general to break the law. I think that's a stretch. So what Trump will do if elected, and this is another distortion, the statements he made were, yes, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. Oh, I thought MSNBC was going to have a collective heart attack. Okay? But what he was saying clearly was that I'm going to overturn every executive order Biden put out, just like Biden did to me. And so if you look at executive order as being dictatorial, I'll be a dictator on day one, but then I won't.
Right, but even look at the list that I have up there right now,
Donald
Bill.
Trump.
Just look at these things that are just policy things. I don't disagree. Look, with Charlottesville, you're correct in your analysis, but the context also matters about how slow he was, and he always has been because of what you just said. A lot of these guys who support Trump, men and women, are good people. Some of the people who have folded themselves in are bad people who see him as an agent of their expedience. But that list that I had up there, you know, I'm going to deport, 10 million people. I'm going to bring back in the Muslim travel ban. I'm going to execute drug dealers. You know, these things that signal a harshness and an aggression that if he goes down these roads of policy, what does that look like to you? Or do you think this is just talk?
It's just talk. It's Huey Long stuff. Or it's populist stuff. Now, Biden is a guy who doesn't talk. So even approaching 3.5 years, we don't know why. And you brought it up. And Phil brought it up, too. We don't know why he has an open border policy. He's never explained it. Trump said he was going to build a wall from Brownsville to San Diego, and Mexico was going to pay for it. Did that happen, Cuomo?
Say it again, Bill.
Did it happen?
No.
Trump said he was going to build a wall
Didn't
from
happen.
Brownsville to San Diego. Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Trump says a lot of stuff, all right? So what I believe, if Trump wins, he'll govern pretty much the way he governed the first time around. Now, will he try to stop the rampant crime? Yes. Will he lobby for harder penalties against fentanyl dealers? Yes. But he has to operate within a framework.
Right.
He just can't run around. I have more confidence that Donald Trump could stop the Ukraine war, 1,000 times more confidence than Biden could.
How?
So if Trump's elected, there'll be bad things, but I think he will govern economically much, much better. And we might even get out of Ukraine, and maybe the Hamas thing will tone down.
We're going to take a break. It's an interesting thought. He blames Zelensky for some of his hardship, and it makes you wonder what his disposition will be towards the policy, because this is a man, as we both know, and you at home should know, what matters to him personally matters most. All right, it's time for you to have your say. Cuomo uninterrupted. That was funny. Dusty, I want to take people's questions, but you have one for your favorite guest on our show.
He is my favorite guest, and we all know that. I'm making myself look nicer, if that's possible. But there's people that have called and wanted to know if Mr. O'Reilly would consider being the next Golden Bachelor.
No. I don't want to inflict myself on any other human being in that context.
Well, I don't know, because the last Golden Bachelor was a real success story. So
here's my impersonation of Bill O'Reilly on The Golden Bachelor. Listen, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you, and you're not going to accept it. But it's the truth. People don't like you, okay? And you're certainly not going out with me. Next.
They're gonna be a lot of nice ladies being given perspective.
You, salad bar. Now, get us a real caller for Bill.
No, he's too handsome for that show. Let's face it. All right, anyway.
Oh my God.
He is.
Let's go.
Anyway.
Blessed be his holy
Stefania
name.
from Columbus, Ohio.
Stefania, what's your question?
Hi, Chris. By the way, I love you. My question is, clearly you shoot it straight, and you said that Donald Trump would govern better financially versus Joe Biden. I'm assuming you're implying that you're implying to inflation, but would you agree that inflation is a global thing and that is due to supply chains being shut down during COVID?
Bill?
No. And I never imply anything, Stefania, ever. I always just say it. So you are paying 48% more for gasoline since Donald Trump left office. You are paying 23% more for groceries. And if you go out to a restaurant, more than that. That has nothing to do with Lithuania or France or Niger or Thailand. It has to do with regulations that the Biden administration slapped on the fossil fuel industry and others, which drove up the cost of doing business and then slowed down the supply line and hurt the farmers and across the board. That's why all Americans are paying more for the essentials of life. Donald Trump will remove almost all regulations. So therefore, just by that action, the people will get some relief.
Got to be careful with how many regulations, what kind, and all that. But sweeping moves can mean something. Look, two things can be true at once. Stefania makes a point. Inflation is absolutely, as is all monetary policy, influenced on a geopolitical level. Certainly gas prices are. The United States does not do that much to control its own gas prices, and it can't pump its own way out of it. We've never pumped more than we are right now. But two things can be true at once. The regulation matters, the world markets matter. Can Trump do better? We'll see. He's definitely going to give a tax cut, but it ain't going to be to you, Stefania. I'll tell you that right now, because we saw in the last one, he called middle-class tax cut. You got 15 cents out of every dollar went to the middle class.
The records show, Cuomo, the
Yes.
record shows that Trump did do better in his 4 years than Biden has done.
I would give him better in
Next
2
question,
years.
I'm ready.
Because you guys pretend that the pandemic didn't happen, because then everything tanked. But in his first 2
Trump
years.
had the pandemic, too.
I know. I'm
Trump
saying
had the
if you
pandemic,
factor in
too.
the pandemic, his economy wasn't that great. But that's not fair, because the pandemic, although the way he handled the
that's
pandemic, exacerbated the problems. But let's get another question. You've heard enough
When
from
he
me.
walked out of office,
Yes.
when he walked out of office, inflation was 1.4%.
True.
All right?
True.
That was after the pandemic. So
True.
what else we got? I like these calls.
But we've been dumping all that money in. Go ahead.
Jim from Tennessee.
Jim, what's your question?
Hey, Bill. Listen, during my
Hey, Jim.
long teaching career, I've noticed that a lack of or diminishing of consequences have been a huge problem in the classroom. Do you think that lack of consequences is one of our major problems in the country, from the president on down to the school kids?
Excellent question, Jim. So I was a high school teacher for 2 years, as many people know. And what has changed, and Dr. Phil hit on the family as being the primary reason why there's disenchantment in the country, that the children are confused, they're not guided well, and in many cases, particularly in the poor precincts, that's true. But education, the public education system has collapsed, and in two ways. We all remember, those of us who are alive, John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, where he said, "Ask not what you can do for your country, okay? Ask not what your country can do for you,
There you go.
but what you can do for your country." That's not what's in play now. It's where's mine?
Yeah.
Gimme, 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 gimme. All right? Now, that is a tremendous change, because the Depression years, World War II, was about we're all in it together, all going to get through it. Now, it's I don't care about anybody else. I want mine. Huge factor. And the only way to get back is to have the essentials of citizenship. What do you owe? Your country, your neighborhood, your parents, all of that. You owe it honesty and respect. That's what you owe.
Yeah.
And you look the urchins in the eye and you tell them that. That's not happening.
I
All
think
right?
that
It's
they should
not
actually.
happening, and that's why you're seeing all of this social chaos.
I think they should make. I don't see it as such a sweeping situation, but I do believe that it would be a worthwhile effort to expand the curriculum to include citizenship. We just don't have the family structure in enough places and institutions in enough places that make good people anymore. I don't believe that human beings come out of the womb good. I think they come out basically morally neutral and self-interested. And if you don't believe me, put a cookie between two 2-year-olds. Watch what happens. I'm saying that you need to make people make the right choices and see why that works in this society. I actually think it should be part of the curriculum. Next question for the big man.
Oh, okay. We're going to go to Al from Marietta, California.
Al, what's your question?
Hey, guys, I love your program, and I just want to let Dusty know she's got to be the most beautiful girl on TV.
What is going on tonight? No wonder you were laughing.
She's a beauty.
I'm old enough to be the Golden Bachelorette.
And I'm telling you, I want to be your bachelor.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, ma'am. I'm single, ready to mingle.
We may need another hour for this.
I'm telling you.
Al,
hey, I just
seek
wanted to
help.
Yeah, tell Abrams we're not coming to him.
Oh.
No, we need more time.
This is...
Yes, much more time. And I'll be back, trust me.
No, you won't.
I just... Okay, thanks a lot, Chris. I really appreciate it.
I'm telling you that right now, Al. You are
And I
not.
loved your
You
dad.
better use a
And I
different
loved your
name.
dad, Chris.
You better use a sly dial number or something, because this is just crazy talk. Will you get me one last real question for Bill O'Reilly?
Yes.
Look at him, Dusty. Look how happy you are. Do you have a real call?
He has a real question.
Oh.
Al, please save me.
What's your question?
Just because I have personality doesn't mean I can't think.
Continue.
I just wanted to ask a question for Bill.
Please.
And this came from the Dr. Phil previous interview. Yes, inflation was at 11% with gas and all the things that we're paying for now. But we are a capitalist society. So the gas companies, the people that are manufacturing gas, the people that are owning the grocery stores, driving up prices. I mean, when you go to the grocery store and you're paying $5 for a potato chip bag that used to cost you $2.35, there's something wrong here.
They're pigs, is what the problem is.
Listen, I agree.
Pigs.
I'm on a big campaign to tell everybody, if you walk in and you think you're getting hosed, walk out.
Yep.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I got a gourmet deli in my town, and they want $16 for a turkey sandwich. You know where I am? Subway. It's not quite as good, but it's $8. Okay? That's where I am. Consumers drive the American economy. You think you're getting hosed? Out of there.
Yeah.
That's the best way to drive prices down.
Sometimes you can't get away from it, though. The gas, absolutely, they're making profits that they couldn't make during the pandemic. Food, absolutely,
True.
It's going on. And who's going to stop that? That's about leadership. And that is a common concern that goes to Dr. Phil's point and Bill's reservation about what will work. But I believe in the persuadables. And I believe that we have common concerns. You just outlined them. It should be on the leaders not to divide us, but to make these problems better. We change that, we change everything. Bill O'Reilly, thank you for being part of this experiment with us tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you as always.